This is the Sandman podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're discussing the Sandman Season 2, Episode 9, The Kindly Ones.
I know this is frustrating for you.
Not being able to leave.
Not being in control. But the only thing that matters is that you're home and you're safe.
I'm not safe here. I'm in hiding. The path that I am on leads to my death. It's only a matter of time.
You say that as if you don't have a choice in the matter.
I don't.
You do. The same choice the rest of us who are not of the endless have to make every minute of every day.
And what is that?
The time you have left may be limited, but you do get to choose how you spend it.
Welcome back, fellow dreamers. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we are discussing Episode 9 of Season 2 of The Sandman, The Kindly Ones. I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm your other host, Derek. Welcome back to our Sandman coverage. Been a while, John.
It does feel like it's been ages,
yeah.
but I know we've been drip feeding them slowly across August, but I do think we've probably missed a week or so in between, or maybe two. But it's good to be back with the Sandman for sure.
Yeah, we were trying to do them as much as we could, but it's just myself and John covering most of the podcasts that we're doing at the moment. We were covering Alien Earth, and we're covering The Boys Gen V. So we recorded as many as we could in advance, and then it took us a little bit longer to get back to the Sandman than we thought. So we have had a gap of a few weeks for Sandman episodes, but not much of a gap on TV Podcast Industries, though. We've had lots of podcasts.
Exactly. Lots of podcasts have been going on TV Podcast Industries. And of course, we are still to get to Marvel's Zombies, the animated series of 4 episodes, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, but they decided to release that in September instead of October, so that's their fault, not ours.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You put that out at Halloween time, we'll cover it at Halloween time.
Just to say, fellow dreamers, we're sorry we've possibly neglected you for a while, but we are back here discussing episode 9 and hopefully episode 10 probably the week after next, around then, because again, with all these episodes dropping, series dropping all in one go like Marvel Zombies, life ultimately gets in the way as well. I'm away with work for a week, so I can't do that. I know Chris was away as well on holidays, so yes, we're glad to be back in the world of the dreaming.
Exactly. And we will close it out this year, I promise. But I suppose the other thing is, the book's been out since the 80s. The show all dropped in a couple of weeks. So we will get around to covering it. We are so excited about covering it. We are going to dedicate the time to it, even though we do know that this is not one of the most heavily listened to podcasts that we have this year. But we know those of you that are listening are really enjoying it. I want to say a huge thank you to Rod for reaching out, telling us that he really is enjoying the podcast about the Sandman Season 2, and to obviously Dr. Bob and Coffee and Vodka and Paul Tenchi-Lee have been sending in their feedback on each of the episodes as well. So thanks to all of you for listening along with us.
It's great, to get your thoughts and observations all the way through, even with our slightly sporadic releases of The Sandman.
Absolutely, and it also just goes to show you, those of you that have asked us to do retrospective look-backs on TV shows that have been out for a long time, things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this is what would happen if we went back to shows that have been on a long time. We have to fit them around shows that are coming out regularly, and we'd never get to the end of a podcast about that retro show.
We've done a few retrospectives where we really did have some downtime. I think it was around COVID, like we did Penny Dreadful, 3 seasons, and that was just myself and Derek. We've kind of gone back where we've needed to sort of, for the full sort of card deck of movies with the Marvel movies in a lot of cases.
Not really too much. We've still got a full 10 Marvel movies that we never covered, as far as I remember. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so lots still to do. But
Absolutely.
as we get into our spoiler-filled discussion of The Kindly Ones, just a quick reminder, fellow dreamers, that you can pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe on any dreamful or nightmarish podcast player of your choice. Also, as we said, we love to get your feedback in on any of the episodes of season 2 of Sandman, so please keep them coming in to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com, or if you wish, you can join the group over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries, where we have our spoiler-filled posts for all the episodes of Season 2 of Sandman there. And you can join in the conversation with the other fellow dreamers listening on as well.
Absolutely.
But Derek, who gave us what, where, when, and how for this episode of The Sandman?
Well, for the series, the executive producers are Alan Heinberg, Jamie Charles, and David S. Goyer. The episode was directed once again by Jamie Charles, and the teleplay for the episode this time was done by Greg Goetz. This is his first episode of The Sandman that he's written, but he has been a script supervisor and on the writing staff for this season, and also was a writer on season 3 of Apple TV series Foundation, also with David S. Goyer. So I would say that's the reason.
Excellent. I really want to see that. It's just I don't have Apple TV.
Yep, another one of those shows.
No, I really want to see it though.
3 seasons over there, and now we know a writer from the show.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for season 2, episode 9, The Kindly Ones?
Sure. Morpheus entrusts the Corinthian to Johanna Constantine, placing in her care a deadly pendant capable of unmaking him at any time, a necessary safeguard against the nightmare's more violent instincts. Elsewhere, suspicion brews in Daniel's babysitter, Mrs. Shaw. She refuses to believe Daniel is truly dead. Her investigation leads her to the trail of Loki, who cruelly incinerates her to cover his tracks. Meanwhile, Mad Hettie urges a grieving Lyta Hall to summon the Kindly Ones, with a promise of justice. In the dreaming, Morpheus receives a visit from his sister Delirium. She sought help from their brother Destiny to find her missing doggy Barnabas. But while trying to provide Delirium with direction, multiple destinies appear. Intrigued by this unusual occurrence, Morpheus has hope for his own situation. Back at his hotel, Loki brings the charred body of baby Daniel from the fire. But not only is the child unharmed, his humanity has been seared away, readying him for his role as a future god. His twisted plan, however, unsettles his boyfriend Puck, who, incensed by Loki's deception, leaves him for a drink at the hotel bar. Johanna Constantine and the Corinthian track Loki's movements, but inadvertently summon Odin during the pursuit. Their hunt leads them to the hotel bar, where they find a disheartened Puck who hands over Loki's room key before he returns to Fairy. The confrontation escalates as Johanna and Corinthian face Loki, but their battle is interrupted by the thunderous arrival of Odin and Thor. The gods swiftly reclaim Loki, dragging him back to his eternal subterranean prison. In the aftermath, a flicker of unlikely affection begins to form between Johanna Constantine and the Corinthian, though she keeps her distance. Meanwhile, Lyta meets the Kindly Ones, who agree to aid her in her quest for vengeance, specifically the death of Morpheus. In Fairy, Puck returns to inform Nula that Lyta has unleashed the Kindly Ones upon the Dream King. Alarmed, Nula searches for her pendant, only to find it has been taken by Queen Titania. The Fairy Queen uses the necklace to summon Morpheus, drawing him away from his realm, an act that leaves the dreaming vulnerable. With its guardian gone, the Kindly Ones and Lyta invade, encountering Gilbert, also known as Fiddler's Green. Under their dark influence, Lyta murders him, sealing her descent into wrathful retribution.
Excellent stuff. I'd kind of forgotten until that moment when Fiddler's Green is talking to Lyta that he had a relationship or a friendship with everybody in the house, including Lyta. She would have known who Fiddler's Green was. So the fact that she's completely ignores him and then kills him effectively means she is now effectively the avatar of the Kindly Ones.
Yeah, definitely. She's going to be really annoyed when she finds out, I think.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Potentially.
Maybe, if she ever comes out from underneath this veil that she's under.
Spell. Yeah, exactly. But shall we get into our top moments from this episode 9, The Kindly Ones?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, first off, we need to address the dead baby in the room, which is, in fact, that he's not.
Yes.
And I do like this. I do like the fact that, and in a sense, Loki does broach this with Puck, who doesn't really, in the end, just because of the pure deceit of it all, he's like, right, this isn't working, I'm not staying around. But I like the fact that Loki does kind of broach it with him to say, I guess doing the analogy with the Greek god Demeter, who, he's put Daniel into the fire in order to effectively burn away the child's humanity, meaning that he will become godly, will become a god, and preparing him to be the god of the dreaming.
Yes,
effectively
to take over from Morpheus. And he even says now that he's burnt off his humanity, he will be as powerful as Morpheus, or even more so. Yeah, which I really like. I was so excited to find out what John would think about this. That this is one of the reasons why we were slightly delayed in the podcast, because I made John stop after episode 8, record our podcast thoughts, and then watch episode 9 so that we could get the full impact, I suppose, of what was happening to Daniel, because you can miss it when you're binging shows like this. A big moment like this, there's a reason why they put it at the end of one episode, and you think Loki, the trickster god, has murdered the heir to the dreaming. So you enjoyed the reveal of that, where he walks back into the room and sees the charred
absolutely
body, and then just breaks it apart, and you see almost the inner light of Daniel
like
coming out.
Like a baked potato, effectively.
Kind of. I think it's a little cooler than that. I was just about to compliment it for the idea that you have the kind of light coming out from inside the body of
no, that
Daniel
was really
well.
good, and that's the thing. There's not. It kind of looked like a gummy bear coming out of the ashes.
Still
and
worse.
then I kind of thought, no, I can't really say that because the gummy bear would melt. And it was like a baked potato or a sweet chestnut or something like roasted chestnut. But I'm glad that this was the path that that they went down, and to be honest, with lovely hindsight, you can't actually imagine there'd be any other way, that it is this rebirth, that it's not the phoenix from the ashes, but it is, in a sense, that it is this transformation using fire to burn away his humanity so he can be a god. I like the fact that it's still that Daniel is at the heart of this mystery investigation that brings both Johanna Constantine and Corinthian together, but equally, I think, we do have to give a little shout out to Mrs. Shaw, who, whilst other heads were reeling from the devastating news that Detective Pinkerton gave to Lyta Hall, that she kind of questioned where this campsite was that they found Daniel in. Was Daniel actually dead at all? So because she was there on the evening, she feels this responsibility, and whether it's that she's just clinging on the hope that he isn't dead, that to help her feel better, but equally she ultimately questions internally Detective Pinkerton and follows him around, but unfortunately for her, Loki does notice Mrs. Shaw following him and leads her off to ultimately silence her and to kill her. I did like Loki's little passage though, where he says to her, do you believe in God? And it's got she's like, yes. Do you, and it's like, do you believe in gods, the plurality of dominions and power? And ultimately, it's like he's annoyed at her that she would never think or know who she was talking to. Because the initial part of that is, do you know who you're talking to? And it's just the one God, and he's like, he burns her saying, I will be under obligation to no one.
Yes, absolutely. I am Loki. I am god of fire, wit, and hate, and I will be under obligation to no one. I love it. I love the idea again that it's just a little touch, and we've talked about it a couple of times already. We'll talk about it again with another one of the points later on, but there's a little bit of Neil Gaiman's comic book version of Sandman that comes into this moment as well. We talked about it a couple of times that things that are on screen have multiple meanings. We have Mrs. Shore following Loki, thinking that she's found him as the one responsible for the death of Daniel, if in fact Daniel is dead, which in some circumstances would be called the smoking gun, right? So we have Loki here pointing a gun at her, and then when she looks back at the gun turns out to be a cigarette. A smoking gun literally is what he's carrying in his hand. So love the metaphor, I suppose would be the way you'd say that. Love that idea, love the concept of it. And in this moment, you still think Loki is the most duplicitous character here. Yes, he absolutely murders this woman who really is just trying to protect a child, but he hasn't murdered the child. Or has he? So that's the other concept that's talked about a lot throughout here. He has killed Daniel to create the true heir to the dreaming, the true heir to Morpheus. There's constant conversations that go on from this point throughout, I guess, as to whether Daniel belongs with Lyta Hall, or does Daniel belong in the dreaming because that's where he was created? Lyta isn't simply his mother. Lyta is a mother who conceived of the child in the dreaming. So in a dream, she became pregnant and then gave birth in the real world.
Yes.
So there's this differentiation about Daniel as to where he belongs. Does he belong with his mother? Does he belong in the dreaming? So has Loki just killed that part of him that belongs in the waking world, and he is now ready to assume his responsibilities in the dreaming? Is that? I think that's the way we're supposed to think what happened here.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's difficult to know because it's a toddler that he puts into the fire who is, gurgle gargle, and remains gurgle gargle, after sort of having his crusty exterior sort of peeled away by Loki. So
except for the light from inside.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think, yes, absolutely, technically you're right. And then even Johanna Constantine and Corinthian debate that after they've rescued him.
Exactly, yeah.
About whether the baby should go to Lyta Hall or to the dreaming. And yeah, I mean, that's really as well in a nutshell that Loki says to Mrs. Shore, because when he does ask her, well, do you believe in the plurality of dominion and power of multiple gods effectively, she's kind of looking at him and he goes, of course you don't. It's the one God now and forever, spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch, amen type of thing. So
that's the second podcast in 2 weeks you've used that.
Well, it's the only verbal reference I can do for a religious sign.
And most people won't know what that means. But
it's the sign of the cross.
Yes, there you go.
That you'd make over your chest effectively.
Yes.
So it's
checking
the top,
your pockets,
the bottom, your right and left.
That's it.
Yeah. So
yeah. Excellent. But it's a really interesting kind of capper on the story, I thought. So I'm glad you enjoyed the big reveal there. But it does lead to the breaking of Loki and Puck's relationship. You kind of guess that at some point they would break. They are both tricksters. They are both manipulative of everybody around them. The point from Puck here is that manipulate anybody else, but why did you need to manipulate me? Why did you need to not tell me what's happened? And Loki just, again, kind of reiterating, I would say, the idea that he's not beholden to anybody, so he can do whatever he wants to. He's not going to be beholden to Puck either. So he tells Puck to stay and they'll talk and they'll sort out the whole situation, but Puck leaves. I love the little note a little later on when he's sitting at the bar and Johanna walks in and says, is this seat taken? And he said, well, if he's not down here now, he's not coming. So Puck was actually in the bar, not gone back to Ferry. He's in the bar waiting for Loki to run after him. And Loki never did. So the relationship is broken and he leaves.
Well, and I like the fact that upstairs you have Loki going, oh, he'll be back soon, speaking to Daniel. So again, it's just that kind of notion of Loki,
neither
and in a sense, Puck being way too invested in themselves and their own sense of ego.
Yes.
To think that they should be the one that heads back upstairs after being at the bar just to cool down, or putting Daniel down to sleep and then deciding to try and contact and find the person who's just left the apartment.
Yes, neither in the wrong, neither in the right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Just like every argument we've ever had, John.
It is a broken relationship there.
Well, no, yes, because they don't come back together.
Exactly.
Neither of them are the bigger man.
Yeah,
Both of them expect the other one to apologize, yes. So, but that never happens. Somebody has to apologize eventually.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed it does.
You mentioned two of the characters there, John. Let's move on to our next point there, Johanna Constantine and the new Corinthian 2. We saw him starting to be created at the end of last episode, and we see him fully created this episode in a brand new way. What do you think of Corinthian 2, John?
I love Corinthian 2. I like his kind of softer side, to be honest, here. And more than anything else, I love the Corinthian here with Johanna Constantine. I loved this duo out on investigation, being asked by Morpheus to go into the waking world to bring Daniel Hall back to the dreaming. The relationship was just really good. They're back and forth between each other. There's just some really nice moments where, like, whether it's on the double-decker bus or it's at the bar where Corinthian is pretending that they're newlyweds. In effect, he's doing this ramblings on love as this newly married couple. Whilst you've got Puck there drowning his sorrows because of love, but it's about whether love actually exists, whether it can be forever, or whether it's easier, as Puck would say, that, well, I fall in love with a stranger, easier than any long-term love. Yeah. So this kind of treatise and ramblings on love, and I just like the fact that Johanna is kind of like, all the way through it, there is this sense of, okay, what am I doing? It did feel like this, like Lethal Weapon or Beverly Hills Cop kind of, the buddy cop type of element, where it's like, just, she's the kind of more sober one of them in this instance.
Without it.
And that's something that's very different from Corinthian in season 1. I loved it. I loved their back and forth and this relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's teed up when Morpheus first introduces Johanna to the Corinthian 2 and is telling her he's wholly new. He is a newborn. He has some memories of his past, but not all of them. And he is new and needs help here. So when he's talking about love and talking about being in love with her, and he is talking about, falling in love with her. She's the heavily experienced person who's had really bad relationships. Remember, from the first time we saw this character, she'd left her girlfriend and had a really bad time after that with her girlfriend. She had breakup after breakup. She's always had problems in relationships. And here's this brand newborn who is going, I'm in love with you. And it doesn't matter whether you love me back, or it doesn't matter whether we fall in love forever or for just a day. It's still love. Yeah. And she's kind of going from the other side as the much more experienced person. She's looking at him going, well, that isn't love. It only lasts for a day. And he's trying to explain to her that, that's just your opinion. As you say, over Puck, who's sitting in between the two of them. And I love the reveal during the conversation. He's kind of really up for the banter between the two of them, these brand new newlyweds, and then reveals he actually knows exactly who Corinthian is, because he says, and you got all that from just eating eyeballs. And so he reveals he knows exactly who Corinthian is. He doesn't know who Johanna Constantine is, but
he says the sorceress.
Yes. Yeah, he knows her by reputation, but he knows who Corinthian is just by the look of him. So,
well, absolutely. Yeah. And I think even just the fact that Johanna is holding a strong glass of whiskey, and Corinthian's there with his martini with the olive in the cocktail glass. I just like that. There is that great moment where Johanna is trying to call Odin to find Loki, so she's gone and got herself a bottle of mead. She's got a packet of cigarettes and some matches, but Corinthian's like, no, we, insist that she doesn't involve Odin because that's what Dream has been saying. And Johanna is like, you're a moral effing compass. Not like the last Corinthian at all. But I do like that, in a sense, she calls Odin anyway, I think, just by breaking the mead.
Well, she's already said the spell, effectively, when he tries to stop her. Exactly. So she's already gone ahead with what she wants to do, even though she doesn't realize that this may cause problems for Morpheus. Morpheus had freed Loki and had put an image in his place, which is why Odin didn't know that Loki was freed, as we know from earlier on in the season. But Morpheus didn't even explain that to Johanna. He just kind of said, look, don't do it. We need you to find Loki. That's the plan. Go find Daniel. That's your job, basically. But she kind of contravenes that. And I do think that bottle of mead was like a bottle of Budweiser. I don't think it was... He says when Odin eventually does arrive after being called, he says that's the worst meat I've had in millennia, basically.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just the cheap bottle of beer that she's got and her Marlboro Lights,
Yeah. I mean, but I like that, and I thought that was actually really cool, just the fire trail heading off.
It's cool.
I like the fact that they come to Mrs. Shaw, and Corinthian, uses her eyes, cuts her eyes out, and like I do like that Johanna's going, well, no, stop doing that. I thought you were supposed to be good now, And he goes, but the old Corinthian would have killed them and then taken their eyes.
Exactly.
She's already dead, so there's no need to use the spell that you're going to. And I like that he puts it, in Mrs. Shaw's eyes. It absolutely finds where Loki is, but also, that you find just that little bit of backstory from Mrs. Shaw, given how brutal her death was. At the really emotionally cold Loki, that she had a good life and a happy life. Absolutely. So that was really good, and he's telling Johanna that. But ultimately, that's what brings him to the bar. It's what then that conversation with Puck leads to him giving the card key for the room, and they go up. And again, Loki trying to use the same old trick that he pulled on Puck by pretending to be Morpheus. Yeah. And you have Corinthian going, no, it's in the eyes. It's not him at all.
Yes. And that's really important. And that probably comes across better in the comic books, or would come across better in the comic books, because every time you see Orpheus, he's got a universe in his eyeballs. So we as the reader, every time we see him, his eyes look different to any other character on the page, whereas in the show they haven't chosen to do that. So, but that particular line would be a reference to the fact that you can instantly tell Morpheus, because his eyeballs are different to anybody else in the universe. So that's the point. But yes, it's okay that Loki does this once with Corinthian, because, as we say, Corinthian is newborn, so a bit more easily taken in. Johanna isn't taken in by the fact that this person is pretending to be Morpheus. She says if it's Morpheus, he would allow us to go in and check on Daniel. So she suspects that it isn't, and then goes out of the room, and that's when Corinthian realizes that it isn't Morpheus, and then he tries to change into Johanna on the floor, even though Johanna's in the room. So that's not going to work either. So I think it actually makes Loki look a bit more stupid than he should look here. Like, he doesn't even get away from Corinthian, hide behind the sofa, and then come back out as Johanna.
Well, he then turns into Corinthian, and Corinthian says, at least give me some benefit that I know who I am.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe it's just he doesn't have eyeballs, teeth for eyes is what he has. So maybe he just can't see the person in front of him. So it's just the voice he's supposed to be tricked by. But it doesn't work anyway. Yeah. And Odin and Thor arrive to take back Loki to his eternal prison once again.
I mean, that was quite a quick ending for Loki here. I thought there would be a bit more to it. And it's not to say there won't be in the coming episodes that remain, potentially, but even now I'm questioning how the whole Lyta Hall and the Kindly Ones is going to go, because I would kind of be assuming at this moment that Loki has got a comeuppance given. He's actually responsible for the disappearance of Daniel Hall. You could argue, yes, maybe his death as or the humanity, But it'll be interesting now just to see how that plays.
Yeah.
Certainly given the
hope
ending
for that.
here that
Yeah.
we get, which is pretty brutal, at least for Fiddler's Green.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see how it plays out, purely to see if we get Loki again.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold out hope for Loki. Now, I don't know. I haven't watched the rest of the season, but what has happened is that Loki has achieved the purpose for the storyline, which is he has created the vessel for the future Lord of the Dreaming. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of the season. But I think Loki's part in the story is probably done. As he's being returned, as I said, to his eternal prison. It just made me laugh because we were watching it the other night, taking our final notes for it, and it did remind me that the last time we saw Loki in the Marvel universe, he is also in a sort of eternal prison, holding together the universe. So Loki will always end off going into an eternal prison for all time, forever, no possibility of escape, and then he may appear again. Yeah. I just think, because this again is a condensed version of the Sandman books, which ran for many, many years and could have run for 5 seasons on Netflix. They may have just finished Loki's story here.
I'm sure
he's off the table, basically.
I think that's the worry for me, is that they have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe it plays out like that.
Yep.
That ultimately Loki gets away with it. So at this moment in time, it just feels more of a truncated ending for Loki, that ultimately Thor and Odin come in, put him over the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hugely powerful god, but obviously because they are gods as well, it's like dealing with someone else. Thor puts him over his shoulder, and Odin basically says, there's no harm done. You can tell your master, Morpheus, that, whilst we know he has had his hand in this escape, we bear him no ill will, and he's always welcome in Asgard.
Yes.
And so it just felt very truncated, very quick, very abrupt, given the severity, the magnitude, the weight of what Loki has done here.
Yes, but
if we don't see him again.
I would kind of call back to Loki shape-shifting into another person while he was in the dreaming, because of how bad his experience was in his eternal prison. It's not just him sitting in a cell. He is being tortured in this eternal way, to a point where he was willing to contravene the agreement that had happened with Morpheus to get out of there. Now he's being brought back there. He's not being brought back to Asgard. He's being brought back to his prison. So, so he is going to be punished. We may not see it on screen, but he is being punished pretty severely for everything that he's done, not just this particular issue or this particular challenge. So, but I like that he gets a little dig in on his way out the door when he shouts out that Thor's wife has a mole on her inner thigh because she allowed him to lick it once.
Yes, exactly.
Good old Loki.
But it's really good. I have to say, for me, the Corinthian and Johanna Constantine here was the highlight of this episode. Absolutely loved it. Loved the two of them hunting down Loki and dealing with one another.
Yeah.
It was just really playful and excellent.
Absolutely. And it does end with a little bit of a relationship starting. We talked about the love of the Corinthian to Johanna at the bar. It seems quite quick, but, again, he's willing to fall in love quickly is kind of the point. And we have Johanna saying no to him when he says, "Can we see each other again?" She pushes him away and says, "I don't think that's a good idea."
Yeah.
Now, I feel like they had to do a little bit of underlining about what the meaning of this was, again, because it's running through something really quickly here.
Yeah.
This is her reward. This is her boon. Her meeting with the Corinthian, someone that actually is a very good match for her. She gets on really well with. She's obviously intrigued by who this version of Corinthian is. And her saying no is all an echo of the relationship of Lady Johanna Constantine and Orpheus, where she fell for Orpheus and his song, and even though he was just ahead, wanted to see him again, and he refused her seeing him, and she eventually was buried on the island alongside Orpheus. If you remember back to when Johanna was given the diary of Lady Constantine, she asks Morpheus after reading it, "Hang on a second, you gave her the love of her life, you give me a diary.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually what she was given. She was given the connection with Corinthian and chose not to act on it, which is interesting.
Yeah. That's great.
I
Yeah,
love that
it's a
echo
nice.
of that
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really
Cool.
good. Yeah.
Cool.
Shall we move on to multiple destinies and maybe just a slight glimmer of hope here?
Yeah.
For old Lord Dreamer,
Yes.
Lord Morpheus.
Uh-huh.
I do like the fact, as you say, he's kind of self-inflicted lockdown.
Oh my God.
In the dreaming.
Yeah.
I do like that Lucienne is trying to put him to use here to work on some dream ledgers that he's not really bothered about, but also
so bored. Yeah.
But just to get him working on an ongoing dispute between the Knight of Clouds and the body politic. So I like that he is kind of, being a bit sort of, it's so unfair gothic kind of.
Well, John, I know we don't have kids, but do you remember when you were like this and your mom was dealing with you like this?
Yes.
I love that it's Lucienne in her library. She's getting all of her work done, and Morpheus is in the same room as her going, I'm looking for a book. I have nothing to do. And she's going, there's loads to do. You're the boss here. You have to sign documents. You have to review everything. And he's like, I don't want to do any of that. But he does eventually get on side. She does say to him, again, another wonderfully written segment here. She says to him, now you're like everybody else. Yes, you're going to die. We all know that. And now you have to live your life like every single one of us that knows we will die eventually, which is you choose to live how you want to live the life that you were given. Death has said it on many occasions, this phrase that will keep coming up all the way to the end of the series. Everybody gets the time they get, and that's it. Nobody gets more than the time they get.
And even Destruction had sort of similar messages around just living the best life. Also that he's changed, and so on. And we do get an echo of that here from Fiddler's Green.
Yes, we do.
Where he says, yes, you kind of act the same, but actually, despite all that, you're saying no to this and no to that, but everything else about you has changed. Before, now you were always governed by your duties, but now you've changed. And when one of the endless changes, that changes everything.
Absolutely.
Again, what does that mean in this situation? Is it for a positive or for a negative? Well, only time will tell as we move forward.
Exactly. And could be either. Yes, absolutely.
But equally, then we have Delirium going to Destiny. I love these two together. Just the kind of roll of the eyes. And then all of a sudden, Destiny splits into two. And you have Delirium getting very intrigued by this. She only went there to ask for help to find Barnabas, the doggy, and maybe even to ask about whether she should go and interrupt, annoy Dream again to go on an adventure, because last time they did that, it was really, really good. And again,
I love how this
really good.
I love how this is all playing out in the dialogue. Where Delirium's saying things and the people around her are reacting to what she's saying. So, she even mentions Barnabas, the dog, that talks quite like Destiny, but it can explain things better to her. And he says intelligent things like, I will only deal with you when you realize that gravity is not a suggestion. It's a law. That kind of thing. I wish Barnabas was here so he could explain what you've just said to me in terms I can understand. And then when she's talking to Morpheus and says to him about, we had such a great time in the last adventure, he just kind of says, did we?
I know, exactly. I love that. I do. Yeah. It's like, I like it as well with Destiny, where Delirium is kind of really, searching for a quest. And Destiny is like, if you go on that quest to find a dog, then you will find the dog. And also other things.
Yes.
And she's like, shall I bring Dream? He's been down since Orpheus, and ultimately with Dream in his own head, in the dreaming, Delirium arrives. And again, more little snippets here where, yes, she tells Morpheus about the multiple destinies, which really gets him looking quite hopeful.
Well, yes, because all of a sudden, the thing that Destiny told him has come to life. Destiny said to him, I can't see your future. It's not part of this. Your future is now to fate, not to destiny. So this is another play on that idea. Destiny is just one path, but it's not necessarily the only path that will get you to your destiny, I suppose. So him seeing there's multiple destinies from this conversation with Delirium suddenly gives him hope. He suddenly smiles, and I think it may be one of the first times, except for some of the times of the sister death, it's one of the first times we've seen Morpheus smile in the show.
Absolutely. I think the other thing with Delirium, while she's there with Dream, she does say, our existence deforms the universe around us. And Dream says, do you mean the existence defines the universe around us? And she goes, no, I mean deforms. I know more than people think I do. Yes. We have her talking about that destinies are not linear in all cases. They can be bendy and curvy. And I do like how this complexity around that simple notion of a destiny or being fated is really, really good. And again, this deals with agency as well. So, this notion that, back in the day, it would be know your place. That there was a predetermined destiny for whether it was child labor or women or whatever it might be. And this is this notion that it doesn't have to be like that. There are ways around it, ways through it, and agency for the people involved, which is kind of interesting. I like how that feeds in as well to this feeling of hope for Dream as well.
As Gene Roddenberry once said, the infinite universe is infinite destinies, infinite outcomes. So that's the realization that Morpheus has just had. The guiding from Lucienne, the guidance again from Fiddler's Green, and now his sister coming back in talking about the fact that quite literally there are now multiple destinies, multiple possibilities, multiple outcomes. All of those things combined together in Morpheus's mind, and suddenly he's going, wow, I didn't even think there could be anything more than the linearity that I've experienced so far. I've been told I'm on the death list from the Kindly Ones. Yeah. And remember, when he went to the Kindly Ones, they said, we're not going to come after you until it's time to come after you. Yeah,
well, absolutely. But interestingly, the thing he doesn't see is Destiny's number reducing again and coming back down. And you have Destiny saying the path is set.
Oh, absolutely. And that happens because of really the return of Puck to Fairy.
Yeah.
And what's happening with Cluracan and with Nula
and Titania.
Titania, yes. So let's talk quickly about that. We see Nula getting up in the morning, still with the glamour on her, and for the first time I realise what it is about it that makes me laugh when she's in Fairy, John. You live in Ireland, you've lived in Ireland for many years now, so you'll know this, but the kids that do Irish dancing for professional Irish dancing over here, where you have them dressed up. They're similarly dressed up to, I would say, pageant girls in America.
Yes.
When they do Irish dancing, it's just an excess of makeup for someone so young and an excessively starched dress for someone so young. And you see Nula looking at herself in the mirror with her curls in her hair, and she's trying to straighten them out, can't straighten them. So she looks to me, and probably combined with her accent being Irish when she doesn't have the glamour on, she really looks like a girl who's been put into an Irish dancing costume and wants to get the hell out of it as quickly as possible. So that's what it was reminding me of. But she goes to Cluracan after he's completed once again another orgy with hundreds of people, or lots of people, and lots of alcohol. Did you see him going around looking for an empty bottle, or looking for a full bottle, and then finds a glass in one person who's fallen asleep and takes the glass off them so he can drink some more before he goes off for cocktails with the Queen. But she explains to him what her necklace is, that it's actually a gift from Morpheus. She's seen the Queen look at it, but can't give it over because it was a gift from Morpheus in case she ever needed to summon him. So, and that was her boon for living in the dreaming and going back to Fairy when he asked her to. So, Titania learns about that quite quickly from Cluracan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's the persistence of Nula for me, wanting to help, assist, rescue Lord Morpheus, after what he's done. But ultimately, it's the devilry or the mischief that lurks in Fairy.
Well,
but the information that comes to Fairy through Puck returning, that Loki has in effect set in motion what he intended, and that Lord Morpheus is in danger, and with the necklace missing and in the hands of Titania, which ultimately means that Dream is pulled from the dreaming in order to satisfy Titania and Nula, in order to warn him that the Kindly Ones are coming, but do the worst thing that they could possibly do, which is remove him from the dreaming, where he now becomes vulnerable, but also so does the dreaming.
Exactly. Yes.
And this is, this is kind of the drop really here, because then we see Lyta as the weapon of the Kindly Ones entering into the dreaming, and yes, it not ending up very well for Fiddler's Green.
Well, absolutely, yeah. That was going to be just the final point on the episode, was about Lyta here. But yeah, just to reiterate, that moment when Morpheus realizes not only has he just been dragged out of the dreaming by the wrong person, Titania, not Nula. Nula wouldn't have called him out unless she really needed help, but he has to come. That was what the pendant was imbued with, was the power to call him. So now that's dragged him out and made the dreaming completely unsafe again. So he had been effectively told if he stayed in the dreaming, then nothing would happen to him. He wouldn't face the retribution of the Kindly Ones. But yeah, let's quickly talk about Lyta and how she got to this point, I suppose, because we see her at the beginning of the episode with that photograph that Loki had given to her of what she believed was Daniel dead. And it's Mad Hettie that comes to her. I told you to watch out for Mad Hettie. She was going to be around somewhere.
I really liked this, actually. I liked her putting Hippolyta in the hex, doing the chant and incantation with the candles. And I thought it was really interesting when you said that Claire Higgins was the actress who plays Hettie, that she had been in Hellraiser as well, because there was something about that whole ceremony that was really, really good, where she sends Hippolyta effectively to the Kindly Ones here. Yeah,
it's been a long time for a lot of people since they may have seen Hellraiser, but she was the main catalyst in Hellraiser 1 and came back in Hellraiser 2, but she is the reason why Pinhead came to Earth. She was the one that was doing the magic effectively. So having her here as Mad Hettie, creating this magic protection spell over Lyta, which leads her to go to the Kindly Ones. I thought that was fantastic, and you can tell how well it works. She's so good for the scenes, and off goes Lyta to the Kindly Ones, who she calls, John, the Furies.
The Furies.
And I love the response from them. I love this response. That is a word that people use for women like us. We are not furious unless there's a need to be furious.
Well, that's it. Like, and I think the piss patter between the fates, the Kindly Ones, are really, really good. And I mean, ultimately, they almost tell her, well, when she says the Dream King killed my son, and they said, but that's not a blood killing.
Yes, absolutely. That's not family blood.
That's not family blood.
That's your family blood.
Yeah.
That's not the family blood. He cannot be punished for that. He can only be punished if he killed his son. And he has killed his son.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that.
That's great.
It even comes back to when they're behind her in the dreaming, and she runs her sword through Fiddler's Green to kill him. And you have Fiddler's Green before that kind of saying, well, you shouldn't be here. And they're kind of like, well, we should, because your master is no longer here. Yes. And they say, we are performing our function.
Yes.
So, I mean, to them, this is like working through the paperwork. Yep. This is their job. This is their function, and they're taking on their form and function for the purpose at hand.
Absolutely.
And I just like that, because it is, hugely objective and detached. And even though they understand the significance of the consequences of what they're doing, that is because everyone knew what would happen if there was a blood killing, you know? And that's the interesting thing. It's like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And everyone knows what would happen if one of the Endless killed one of their brethren.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing, and this is our function, and off we go.
Absolutely, in exactly the same way that Death is there to collect the dead, and Dream is there to manage dreams, the kindly ones, or the Furies are there to enact
there's a purity of decision-making, which, and maybe I'm kind of latching onto it is because there's so much snake oil and sort of forked tongues or, you know, spin or sort of just taking things out of context or just general lies these days that you experience. And it's like, this is just kind of a purity in the sense of right and wrong, action and consequence.
Exactly.
And that sometimes isn't seen as much of late.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or certainly not reported on as much as late. You know, you put your hand in the fire, it gets burned.
Yeah.
For the Furies, as an Endless, you kill one of your brethren, you kill your own blood, then we unleash our Fury, the Fate, the less kindly stuff.
Yes.
When someone comes and tells us to do it.
Well, absolutely. And again, you know, nothing contravening what they said before. They said they wouldn't go after Morpheus until they were required to go after him, and they're required to go after him because Lyta has come to them looking for vengeance. She is their weapon. So yeah, she's very detached in this scene, and I think I mentioned it right at the start of this of these moments here when poor old Fiddler's Green, when he's saying to her, you know, oh, Miss Lyta, you know, I haven't seen you in a while, basically. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. You know, he thinks he's looking at the person that he was friends with when he was living in the spare room back in the flat in London. So, but it turns out she is blinded by vengeance, I guess, and guided by fates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I meant to mention this multiple times over the 2 seasons that we've seen the Kindly Ones. We have seen the Kindly Ones in other shows before. We've heard mention of them before many times. Things like Game of Thrones and Agatha all along have mentioned them as Mother, Maiden, Crone. Those are the 3 members of the Furies and the Kindly Ones that we see here. That's why they are all 3 of 1. That's why they all finish each other's sentences, why they all have different opinions on the words that they're saying as they pass a sentence around among them. You know, it's there's a motherly part of it, there's a wizened elderly part of it, and there's a youthful part of every time they talk. And I love that they have continued that. It's really good, excellent. And an interesting way to end this episode. And will Morpheus get out of the Kindly Ones being in the
it's really
dreaming?
exciting stuff, actually. And I have to say, as someone who hasn't read the books, I'm really interested now for the last 2 episodes. And then, obviously, there is the big final episode.
Yes. Or the capper, or the epilogue, I guess would be called, the final episode. Maybe epitaph.
It might be.
Maybe. We will see that over the coming weeks. But overall, John, what did you think of episode 9 of season 2 of The Sandman, The Kindly Ones?
I liked this. I liked its kind of march towards something that feels a little bit sort of fuzzier now, even though there's a certainty with Lyta Hall and the Fates now in the dreaming, and it's kind of turning dead with the stab and death of Fiddler's Green. Kind of expands out from him, this sort of death. But I liked it. I loved the buddy cops of Johanna Constantine and the Corinthian after Loki. The idea that Daniel Hall is there waiting to take the throne of the dreaming. I also just, you know, the poetry of the fact that if Lyta goes this route, then she has lost even the godly version, because he will take up as heir to the dreaming.
Yeah.
And so will be in the dreaming world, not the waking world, where she will, I presume, go back to. So,
maybe,
it'll be interesting to see how this goes. So, I would give this a 4.5 books of Corinthian out of 5.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. In particular, I thought those two, Corinthian and Johanna Constantine, were excellent.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed Freddie Fox as Loki.
Oh, yes.
Indeed, like, as I say, maybe for me, just slightly truncated, but I think that's the nature of how this second season possibly has come together.
Yeah.
And coupled with Jack Gleason as Puck, really, really good, I think.
It's good to like Jack Gleason after his seasons in Game of Thrones,
as Joffrey, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's nice to like him. Like, he's an Irish guy, he's from Dublin, he had to give up acting, or decided to give up acting after playing that role of Joffrey for such a long time and being hated so much. He went off to college, and he's supposed to be a lovely guy, like a really nice guy, so it's nice to see him in a role where you kind of like him,
Yeah, I mean, he's still the mischievous Puck.
Yeah.
But yes, he is. It's just nice to see, and I think those two work well together.
They did, definitely.
They really did. So yes, that was really good. And yeah, just the whole thing with delirium and dream or destiny just tickles me. And
Absolutely.
is the bit of fuzzy hope that might still be there, or is it, given that destiny kind of starts to sort of coalesce back into a single pathway, given what's gone on with old Hettie.
Yeah.
So loved this. 4.5 books of Corinthians out of 5 for me.
Well, I'll tell you what gives me one little bit of hope as well.
Go on.
Morpheus gives Goldie to Delirium to go off as her companion on her path to go and find Barnabas. So that's one member of the dreaming that may not be there when Lyta takes her revenge on everybody else in the dreaming while Morpheus is away. Will Morpheus be able to get back into the dreaming while Lyta's there, killing all of his subjects?
Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll certainly see.
She is on the path of vengeance, certainly, right now.
Yeah. But with that, fellow dreamers, we will get on to our feedback for this episode. First up, by email, Coffee and Vodka says, "Greetings, fellow fallow field defenders. The condensing, remixing, and quick marching of plots to see 3 or 4 more seasons completed in one makes for some thick viewing. Of what I can remember from one watch, this Corinthian is menacingly kind and, in his own unpredictable way, way scarier than his predecessor. His and Joanna's buddy copping provided humorous relief to the pathos of the rest of the episode. Gilbert's final words to Dream artfully encapsulated the season and taught us all a valuable lesson. Do good things and the fates will kill you." Speaking of, is there anyone who doesn't know Morpheus is marked for death?
Nope.
With Dream off the reservation, Loki off to his just desserts, Daniel off to the dreaming, Lyta off her head, and Puck off to Fairy, we'll see where it all lands next episode. At the very least, hopefully Delirium finds Barnabas. 5 Fiddler's Deserts, Lighter Fires, and off-brand offerings out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka.
Excellent. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. I love how you've described Corinthian as menacingly kind, and maybe even scarier than his predecessor.
Absolutely.
There is something about that, isn't there? You know, we know he's not the same. Morpheus, who we absolutely trust, has said he is never going to be like the previous Corinthian because that one disappointed me and I've made him differently this time. But we have the experience of the previous Corinthian, so every time you see this character on screen, you go, what's he going to do? You know, the fact that he reaches down and rips out the eyeballs of Mrs. Moore and eats them, that's pretty similar to what the previous Corinthian did, but he's doing it to investigate the disappearance of a child and using that power that he has to solve that. So, there are moments when you go, ooh, could he be just as bad? And just like Joanna, questioning every time and every word he says early on. But it's interesting, he's the one that's talking about love so much in this episode. So, again, I love how they've incorporated that. There are lots of jumps, there's lots of condensing, but I love how they've incorporated that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I liked how they incorporated Mrs. Shaw's eyes into his little teethy sort of sockets.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Absolutely. Thanks so much as always, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, over on Facebook, Dr. Bob Phillips says, there's more immolation in this season of Sandman than I think has been in the whole of my year viewing to date. Excluding Johnny Storm, because that really doesn't count. I've particularly enjoyed the turn that Destiny has had in the last couple of episodes, with the blank pages and the multiplicities collapsing like observed waveforms. Will Lyra lay waste as a tool of the fates? Will Nula break the fairy chains holding her? Can Delirium find her dog and save her brother? 2+1 to go. Indeed. Good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Yeah, more immolation, excluding Johnny Storm.
Yeah, if you included Johnny Storm, there's more in that movie.
Oh, big time.
But,
yeah.
But there's lots. God, there's been a lot in lots of shows that we watched as well. It's not just in Sandman as well.
Yeah, and I think, like yourself, Dr. Bob, as well as with Coffee and Vodka, really hoping that Barnabas is found so he can put a smile on our faces.
Absolutely.
But yes, 3 episodes to go.
Yeah.
2 for this storyline.
Yep. And one at the
Looking
end.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob. We also have some feedback in from Paul Tenchi Lee. There's the piece I held over from episode 8 because there was a little bit of spoilers for episode 9. I didn't want to read them out before John had seen the episode. So I'm going to put together both pieces of feedback for episode 8 and 9. So Paul says, I watched episode 8 and then binged the rest of the season. Hope I'm able to keep my comments to the specific episode. Where Puck and Loki lovers in the comics, I can't remember, but I love their dynamic. The show softened Puck from his comics counterpart, but it makes plot sense and makes Puck to be less of a total a-hole than Loki. Jenna Coleman, gender swapping Joanna for John allows for some fun banter with the other characters. The general gender swapping definitely makes the show feel less bro-y than the comics. This goes back to Lucienne and even having Galt instead of Brute and Glob running Jed's dreams. Also great chemistry between her and Boyd Holbrook. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul, the idea of changing over the character to Johanna Constantine has just added so much to the show, hasn't it? She's been fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Love Jenna Coleman straight from the first time I saw her on Doctor Who with 2 different doctors. She was great there, and then into the show The Serpent, where she played the partner of the murderer in that show. So
really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So a great presence in here. Paul continues, how does Puck not realise that it's Loki wearing Morpheus's face? Again, this is a softer, gentler Puck, I guess. What Loki did to Daniel was terrible, and it was clearly by instruction from Morpheus. I don't think I clocked that when I read the comics. Morpheus is a dutiful bastard. And we get to hear about Loki's internal torment, which, he might deserve it for some amount of time, but the point of Nada's stories is that no one deserves to be punished forever, and that thread is for a later episode.
Yes, I like that angle on this. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Paul continues, I don't know my Norse mythology well enough, but I seem to remember something about Odin releasing Loki to help fend off Ragnarok. It's understandable that the show team did not decide to give Lyta or Hector any of their comics' history of being the superhero Fury and Silver Scarab. It does make it slightly odd for the Fates to pick a random civilian to face the forces that Morpheus might deploy in the Dreaming to protect himself. Also, why do I feel like the Fates have been after Morpheus from even before he killed Orpheus? It's not like they're any less cryptic to the other people they talk to. The episode summary on Wikipedia suggests that Joanna inadvertently summoned Odin when she cast the tracking spell for Loki. I think she knew exactly what she was doing.
Agreed.
And finally says Dead Fiddler's Green is pretty sad.
It is actually. Yes. I was kind of, just because as well how he welcomed Lyta to the Dreaming and was sort of just talking to her, chatting to her, like you say, as an old friend. And then out comes the sword, and before you know it, he's run through by Lyta. Yeah.
I think Fiddler's Green has always been a really soft presence in the show as well. You know, there was the original introduction in season 1 of him as Gilbert, just being this very friendly character who's welcoming in everybody around him. And then we find out he was a dream that had run away to experience life in the world. And he's the one that brings the beauty to the land of the Dreaming, effectively. So now that he's dead, you see that disintegration of all of the greenery. This is now a really dulled landscape by the end of this episode after Lyta takes him out.
Absolutely.
It's really sad. And also, Paul, you mentioned about them removing the superhero history of Lyta and Hector from the story here on the Sandman TV show. I suppose the one thing that still stands is that Lyta conceived Daniel in the dreaming. So that's what makes her powerful. That's what makes her a tool that the Fates can use.
Yeah.
Versus Morpheus. It's not just that she was able to be a superhero in the dreaming. It's that she has had a very specific experience. So they're using that as their way in, I suppose. So it's for a TV audience who may not have read the stories in the comics, I think that makes a little bit more sense. Because I do think it would be really unusual if they'd had the two of those characters playing DC superheroes on screen. So I don't think it would have. I don't know how you would get it across as well as it came across in the comics.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a good choice not to do that for someone who hasn't read the comics.
Yeah.
I think that would be. I think maybe if it had the 5 seasons, then absolutely, I think there's time to do it.
Yeah.
But equally with that, it's just whether it makes sense to another audience. I think this is trying to have it pitched away from the superhero element, so I can see why they made that kind of executive sort of creative decision in a sense.
Yeah.
But as always, Paul, really good to get your thoughts and observations. As with all our other fellow dreamers, it's really good. These are so dense and layered, and as you say, plus all the volumes of the comic book.
Yeah.
That certainly with me, bound to miss something.
Absolutely.
And it's great to get your thoughts. So, Paul, Dr. Bob, and Coffee and Vodka, as well as our other fellow dreamers, keep your thoughts coming in.
Absolutely. A couple more weeks left in our coverage of The Sandman. Next time, we'll be covering The Sandman Season 2, Episode 10, Long Live the King.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, but thanks so much, fellow dreamers, for joining us. Please stay subscribed to the podcast. If you enjoy what you hear, please share it with your friends, because, of course, sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Yes, it is.
Not doing a Lyta Hall on Fiddler's Green.
And your love could be listening to us for the last 11 years, or you could have just found us for this specific episode of The Sandman.
Indeed.
It's all love.
Indeed. Great stuff. We will be back next time, as Derek says, with Long Live the King. Until then, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep dreaming.
Bye.
Bye.